We're going to talk about Death Stranding for a decent amount of this. Is the first venue we have to really talk about it. Listen, if you're trying to avoid all things Death Stranding, you're going to want to skip probably the beginning of this podcast.
You're going to want to stay off the internet for, I'm going to say, a solid month.
Now, we're going to try not to talk specific story spoilers. We're going to try to talk mostly gameplay. Some gameplay stuff might be... We can't navigate these what are spoilers and what are not spoilers.
Let's just create a clear dividing line. There is a point we are allowed to talk about in that game and a point we are not. And that is about the halfway point of that game. So we will talk about some story stuff that happens in the first half of the game. We will not reveal anything that happens in the second half, but we will talk...
Impressions
and the quality of the things that go on at that section of the game.
So I will try, and Abby, actually, if you don't mind, I think you're editing this. We will have a timestamp in the comments for where this stuff on the Giant Bomb page.
That's smart.
Okay. In the episode comments, or if you're listening to this in your podcast app, maybe check over there or look for it. We'll try. I'm trying to do my best here because we're definitely going to talk about Death Stranding
and probably
right
for a
now.
while.
What the fuck, this game?
Well, it fucking sucks. All right, let's just go around.
Boy, that's so weird. I couldn't even realize.
Really? It fucking sucks. Okay,
let's not
start there.
Should we all go around and say how much we've played?
Yeah, let's just go around and say where we're all at with it.
Okay, I'm Vinny.
Okay,
I've played Death Stranding to completion.
Hi, Vinny.
Hi. I played Death Stranding to completion. I put about 60 hours in. I finished it last night.
Okay, I'm Alex Navarro. I also finished Death Stranding at about 3:30 in the morning last night.
Sucker.
Just bleary-eyed, staring at my TV. I did it in about 55 hours.
Okay, very good.
My name is Abby.
Hi, Abby.
Thank you. And
Welcome, Abby.
Thank you so much. And I played maybe probably 2 or 3 hours, I'd say. And then I was like, you know what, this was fine, but I have a bunch of other stuff I'd rather be playing. So I got through first couple hours, I think second city area.
Okay. Zone, let's say.
Yeah, second zone, whatever they're called.
My name's Dan Reichert.
Hi, Dan.
Hi, Dan.
Hi. I got the game on a Monday a few weeks ago, and by that Tuesday's night, I had played about 8 hours of the game and realized I would rather be doing virtually anything else with my time than play that garbage.
Okay, fair enough.
Dan, it sounds like you have a lot of stuff to work through here. So
Hey, you're the one to... I heard you guys this morning.
We're all going to work.
You got to work through some
today.
shit too.
I
was working through it.
You had to deal with 50 more hours of that bullshit.
All right.
So how about this?
Let's say your name.
I'm Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
I was told right away by Dan, much to my chagrin.
Not in any certain terms.
I said, nobody say anything about this game.
And then he said something.
And then Dan's like, this game, I'm done with this shit.
Yeah, he immediately said.
So listen, I said I'm going to play 8 hours of it to see if I feel the same way you felt.
Right. How did you feel after 8 hours?
While I think this game is not the best, I still want to keep playing it a little bit, sort of, kind of.
Let's hear from the guys that beat it.
Let's get it back on track. First of all, Death Stranding.
It's a video game.
Kojima's post-Konami breakup game, post-Metal Gear game. It is a third-person action adventure-y game where you basically haul cargo from one destination to another, either on foot, sometimes in vehicles, sometimes using gadgets. That's the gist of the game.
Yeah.
It is against a backdrop of some kind of stuff happening, a near apocalypse.
Everything that he has said about the idea of a Strand game being some new genre or some new, foray into how do you define a video game is mostly bullshit. What it is it is a third-person open-world game in which there is not a lot of action. Like he has stripped away a lot of the combat you would expect from, let's say, a Kojima production, and has put the emphasis on what is effectively American Truck Simulator with a dude. Like it is a delivery game. It is a game where you are
a delivery game,
and it is a delivery game with a narrative. Which to me, you put that on paper and you say Hideo Kojima wrote a truck simulator game where a story happens.
Yeah.
I am on board with that 1,000%. And the execution is where I am maybe left wanting.
There's also a big component that we haven't talked about, which is sort of the community stuff.
Yeah. So right. So I'll cut to the chase in case people are wondering. I was very positive. I am mostly still positive on the gameplay parts. Near towards the end is where things started to unravel and turn to ash in my hands. Mm-hmm. Because of some of the expectation I had for where the narrative stuff was headed.
Yes.
So I actually think, like Abby was alluding to, there's community stuff in it that I think is actually very clever. And that community stuff reveals itself in you are building infrastructure in the world to help Sam make it from destination A to destination B, C, D, E, and F. So you're building things.
I think it helps to know a little bit also just sort of about what the overarching premise is of what you are doing. You are not just delivering stuff. The whole thing revolves around your character, Sam Porter Bridges, being tasked with reconnecting America to this thing called the chiral network.
Yeah, it's basically their version of the super internet.
Chiralium is the game's MacGuffin. It is a fake element that powers everything going on in a future apocalypse scenario, and the network is essentially the super internet.
So nanomachines, if nanomachines were Wi-Fi that made you cry.
Yeah,
Yes.
It's the super internet.
That's pretty good.
And the premise of the game is the Death Stranding is an event in which basically the undead have kind of infiltrated the world of the living. I'm kind of very shorthanded here. Sorry, the dead, yes.
Yeah.
The dead. Ghosts have basically infiltrated the world of the living.
There's ghosts now.
And if they touch
they're mad.
If they touch a human, it causes basically a nuclear explosion. It's called a void out.
Also, any dead body in the world that is left has to be incinerated. Otherwise, it will also cause a void out.
So what does that mean? Like, if you kill someone and you just leave it and don't hike it up a mountain, but what does that mean? Is it game over or what?
No.
There's just a crater there?
There's a big crater.
They show you a crater early on in the game.
So what's the problem with that as far as like from a gameplay perspective?
So let's not jump ahead. But
we'll get to some of that stuff.
So the world has been imagine the world without the internet.
Yes.
And it's across the
hold on, I'm smiling.
Well, let's say across the country. It's because it takes place in the United States of America.
The United Cities of America, please.
They're trying to make the United Cities of America. So Sam is trying to reconnect what was once the United States of America, one destination at a time, back onto the internet, essentially, onto the chiral network. And that is the kind of setup for the game. And he's got to bring the internet key, for lack of a better word, to each place.
Yeah, he has a floating USB stick that sits on his neck, and he brings that to each thing. And so what he ends up doing is there's a lot of facilities that are like part of like Bridges, which is the organization trying to reconnect everything. And then there are also these preppers, these different people that just have their own little like shelters around. And sometimes you have to do more work for them to convince them to join up with the network. But in general, the idea is you're doing deliveries for these people, and then eventually they're like, okay.
Yeah, but also, I don't know if it changes later on, but every one of these fucking places you're delivering to is this copy and paste, same exact fucking layout, same elevator down to the private room.
So everybody lives in a shelter underground because of the also, we forgot to mention, there's a lot of stuff going on here.
There's so many things.
In the world, in the Death Stranding, it now rains time.
Yes.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Timefall.
So
which I thought was like kind of the coolest thing that they introduced.
If you are caught in the timefall rain, literal rain,
you get old.
Time accelerates, so your equipment will
deteriorate super fast.
It's kind of whatchamacallit, not an endurance or stamina. I'm trying to think of what do you call it? Geez, my brain, it's been broken now. Durability. It's kind of a durability mechanic.
Right? Yes.
So
there's durability mechanics all over the game.
Mm-hmm. And I will agree with Jeff that I do think it's interesting in concept, but in practice, mostly just annoying.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I think it's system on top of system on top of system, and none of them are in the service of fun. Is that fair to say?
I think, look, so...
I don't think that's fair to say.
I think a thing to be clear about with this game is that there is not a single aspect of it that does not feel intentional. Like, when this game sucks, it feels like it is sucking for a reason. That does not make it good. That does not make it fun. But at the very least, it feels like it is part of a core design that has so many fucking layers to it, but all feels like it is designed to work together. All these different like durability systems, the fact that like you have to manage your blood, which is one of the meters you have, but also your blood is the bullets, which is that's a real thing. That's how you fight BTs.
Are
at
your
a certain
bones
point.
the money?
Yes, your bones are the money. The blood is the bullets. That's how this works.
That's so cool.
I think we need to be clear. That's not true.
That could be
because we're going to talk about some weirder stuff.
But like your shoes in that game have a durability rating. So like all these different things are all like there's all these systems and all these meters. They all work together. Whether that is in service of an experience that is enjoyable or not, I am very not sure about that.
Okay, so I'm going to walk a little bit more through what I think are basically the three gameplay loops in this game.
Yeah.
One is you go from destination or source place A. They say, bring these packages to B. You have to figure out how you want to load your back, because there's this kind of encumbrance mechanic, and he will wobble and move around. So
he wobbles.
He wobbles,
Yes.
or load up a vehicle, or how do you want to get this weight and this
also, like,
delivery?
He wobbles and he weebles and he goes solo like Mario Van Peebles.
I always do that, like auto load.
Yeah,
can
the
auto-load.
optimized
Yeah,
thing.
so
Yes.
like you can kind of figure out how to stack it up, and then you kind of can choose the
That's
path you
the
want to take.
Tetris element of the game.
And I will say this is my favorite part of the game. I loved being like, I'm going to go on a hike. I see this mountain I got to climb. I got a ladder. I got some ropes. I'm going to throw as much bullshit on my back as I possibly can. I look so stupid, like teetering around with like a huge stack, like 6 feet high on my back. But I loved that. I thought that was cool.
And I'm with you, Abby. Like,
Yes.
honestly, my favorite part of the game was the same thing that I ended up doing a lot in Red Dead 2, which was the idea that every single journey I was making, I was planning out. It was what is my day going to look like? Where am I going? Who am I hitting? How am I hitting these deliveries on the way?
Yes.
There is that element to that game.
Yes, I will say though, in Red Dead 2, I also love that sort of exploration aspect, but I feel like it was more about exploration,
Yes.
and like finding stuff in the world and being surprised by the world. Whereas this, at least the parts I played, and it seems like what I've heard from the later parts, the world feels very much the same no matter where you are.
There are
It
hidden people
it
to find.
changes
Like there are
Okay.
ones that aren't part of the main story thread. Like there are some preppers you'll find that are kind of hidden away, and some of those have some interesting cameos in them. But like beyond that, there's not much reason to explore beyond what they tell you to do.
Well, so I would say just only if you're trying to look for a better path.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think, sorry, Dan, I don't want to cut you off, but let me just get through this gameplay part.
Yeah.
So this part is, I would say, the main loop of the game. This is where you're going to try to get from A to B using things like ropes or ladders, or it's where the social stuff starts coming in, because other people playing this game, if they've built a ladder up a steep hill, you might see that in your game, and
Yes.
then you can use that and you can thumbs up it and like it. And this is, and there are
The
lots,
likes are their money, actually, not the bones.
and this is kind of the main thrust of the game. Find an efficient way, a logistical path to get from here to there, laying down, doing public works projects for infrastructure. And I actually really like that.
Yeah,
stuff.
that's my favorite part of the game by far, is the fact that they give you all these crafting resources, and to build the equipment you need just to do like moment to moment stuff.
Very easy.
Very easy, very little is required. But if you want to build a fucking highway, if you want to get in there and start paving the roads and then use that to drive your truck around and do like 800 fucking pounds of deliveries.
You're going to have to,
You
you're
can
going to work.
and that's the thing. Like that aspect of the game, I think, is really cool. The only thing I was confused by is I don't necessarily understand completely how, like, what determines what online stuff surfaces in your game versus another.
So let me get through the other stuff, because I think this will be where some of the problems start popping up.
Yes.
So let's call that gameplay loop A, right? Then there's gameplay loop B, which is the BT stuff, and those are the ghosts, basically. And this becomes the stealth game part of it, where they are mostly invisible unless you have BB, which is the little baby, the fetus, that
Bridge
is-
baby.
the bridge baby that's kind of you've seen it in the trailers. It's the thing
Yes.
that Sam is holding. When you have that attached to you, if you stand still, you can kind of see smoky echoes of the BTs, and if you avoid them, you can kind of crouch and sometimes hold your breath. You can stealth your way through an area that has become BT infested, and usually that happens when it's raining timefall, and your little scanner, I forget what, the Odorek or whatever they call it.
Yeah, they call it
pops
something,
up.
I forget.
It'll point towards where the nearest BT is, as long as you have the BB with you, and it'll start spinning, and it'll glow red if you're really close, and it'll say hold your breath. And then if you touch a BT, if Sam touches a BT, normally if somebody touches a BT, it's very bad, but if Sam touches a BT, he kind of launches into this, a puddle of tar will envelop around him. They will attempt to drag him in. You can try and shake him off, but you have a stamina meter. If you can't shake him off, dragging you in, you're dragged in. This whole other thing happens. That's, I think,
The weakest shit.
sucks.
It's mashing square to get out of the tar puddle, and then occasionally the demon hands will grab you, and then it's L2 and R2 to steady yourself, and you're hoping to get out of the thing until
Yeah.
your stamina runs down, and then the baby's crying, so you have to hold in L1 and hit down, and then rock your 6-axis controller or whatever. Like, this game, okay, so we recorded this video, it's going to be going up on the site, where it's like,
Yeah.
it's our first impressions, and then we cut forward to
And the
after we
first
played it a little
hour
bit.
of that game is mostly just you're walking around, you meet a couple of characters, and it's very peaceful. Like, very little happens in it. So, like, we don't necessarily know what to make of the game at that point.
But rapid fire after the start of the game, I realized I went from like complete excitement, like 4 years or whatever of hype, and I can't wait to see what happened when Kojima's Unchained. This is going to be awesome. To like, it was so rapid how much my enthusiasm started getting. Like, I was punched in the stomach over and over. Because it starts, and it's right away, well, after you get control of Sam, there's a lot of cutscenes at the beginning. It's like, oh, hold L2 and R2 to lean over and not fall down. I was like, okay, that seems maybe annoying, but I'll deal with it. Maybe that'll be fun. And then it's like, okay, here's the stamina meter. Okay, lots of games have that. Hey, Breath of the Wild had that, and I love Breath of the Wild. And then, you start loading stuff on your back, and it's like, that's okay, this seems like an annoying thing to have to keep doing, but seems like it's a big part of the gameplay, so this will be important. And then you can pop up. This is Timefall Rain. It's going to make your shit go bad, and you have to use container repair spray on. It's like, okay, that sucks. It's like, oh, now my baby's crying, and now I got to do that whole rocking thing. That's like, oh, put your blood in packs so you can put them in the hemoglobin grenades. And here's the BT thing. Like, it just kept introducing thing after thing after thing.
It does.
And then as there was no reward at the end, so I would take the bullshit over the mountain and then talk to a hologram for a little bit, and then he would introduce 6 new systems that weren't fun.
And they don't stop introducing those systems for a long time.
I will say this, or I'm gonna say this. This game is not for you.
No.
I will say this, and I will
say this.
I am really trying not to be hyperbolic here, and I think I mean this in all earnestness, that I don't think I've ever hated a game put out by a major publisher more than this. Hated the very act of playing it. There are worse games out there. There's a lot of just, garbage just kind of thrown out there. And obviously a ton of time and craft and talent and money. A lot of work went into this game. But I don't think I've ever hated having my hands on a controller playing a video game more than this.
And I could see that. This is not a game for you. There are plenty of games that are not for you, right?
Right.
You don't like Telltale games.
But I don't get, I can play something like, Red Dead Redemption 2. This is the example. Is that
you're coming around on it, right?
The thing is, I still don't like Red Dead Redemption 2, and all my disappointment over it holds true. But Red Dead Redemption 2 is 50 times the game Death Stranding is.
So here's what I want to make a clear distinction for you. This is not a game.
Of course, I'm not saying objectively. It's my opinion.
You just did.
What do you mean? No, I'm saying this is me, my voice talking my opinion about Death Stranding.
Right. Yeah. So I think when you say it's not 50, it's 50 times worse than
for me. Of course, you can add that at the end of every sentence I ever say.
Okay,
it's just I'm talking from my perspective.
I will put a little asterisk there.
Yes,
because sometimes I feel like you are like, this is the worst game ever made.
I'll say Death Stranding is garbage for me. Okay. But it's also garbage.
Let me get to that.
It's also general garbage.
Let me get to the last little bit of gameplay loop here, because I think this is
one more thing.
It's just a straight up combat where you're just third person shooter, and I think it's never fully realized.
One thing I should say, just back on the BT thing real quick, there is a point in that this game has multiple problems, one of which is pacing. The first 8 hours of this game are a slog, just a straight up fucking slog. You don't have enough tools at your disposal to really do much of anything in a lot of scenarios. Whenever you run into these mules who are, as far as if I'm remembering the story correctly, they are ex-porters, delivery men, who have gone crazy because they got so addicted to the brain chemical that they get when they get likes for delivering stuff.
Yeah, no, you're right.
That they have formed their own little pocket society of rogue delivery men who don't actually deliver anything. They just take the packages and then keep them.
They might deliver.
How do they get likes from that?
No,
Why don't they just put up a bunch of bridges and signs that say no pissing?
But they're always in the post boxes is the thing. They never get delivered.
Yeah, they have delivery syndrome. So what happened in that world?
Is it actually called delivery syndrome?
I believe it is called something like that. I think it's Porter syndrome.
So they had drones. The technology allowed them to have drones, and delivery people were no longer needed.
Right.
And then that caused. Oh man, Kojima.
Okay.
There's a whole
I don't want to get too into the weeds with this.
Oxytocin thing about the likes and it releases oxytocin and there's a feedback loop, and anyway
the point is that early in those first 8 hours or so, all you can do when you run into those guys is punch them. Literally you just
smack them with a delivery cargo.
Yeah, you just hit them with stuff. And
I think you get your strand rope right away.
I never really figured out what to do with that other than
really?
No, I never bothered with that. But so the point is that you go to a Hideo Kojima game, especially if you are a Metal Gear fan, you think that is a guy who is known for his combat systems. Yeah. That is a guy who is close quarters combat. You think about that as
CQC.
Yeah, CQC. Here, it is literally mashing past a guard on any given enemy and then punching them until they are unconscious. And there is no challenge to it.
It's matching square. It's like a sub-Dynasty Warriors complexity of combat.
And the BTs early on, you can't do shit about. You just have to avoid them.
Okay. To be fair,
yes.
if you can use the rope to counter and then just tie them up real quickly, but it's faster most of the time.
It's faster to just punch them.
And there's also supposed to be, and I say supposed to, a tall grass stealth mechanic.
I used it twice ever.
I used it twice, and I was always found because you always have shit on your back.
Yeah.
Because you're delivering stuff.
Yeah. It's useless. But so my point there is that this is a game similar in the sense to say something like OG No Man's Sky, in the sense that it starts you out with a bunch of broken shit that doesn't work very well, and then the whole like build in that game is making those systems suck less for you.
But that can be done well. Like
yes,
No Man's Sky, like it's not the sheer act of like the walking simulator or the kind of like Zen nature. Like I'm fine with that when it's done well. Like No Man's Sky, especially as it went on and got updated and stuff, it kind of did that right.
But it took years for them to find the fun in that game and make those systems feel less like you are just at an unpleasant disadvantaged state at the outset. Like I like No Man's Sky. But I have never liked the convention of this sucks until you make it suck less. It should be this isn't the best, but then it becomes fun. Like there's a degree there. There's a gradient that they just never get to the part where it's fun. Right. It just sucks less.
I'll say that I'm not even like a huge No Man's Sky fan, but even at launch, I think that like, it sucks at first and you don't have these tools or whatever, but that worked better than, that was less aggressive with the constantly like, hey, this thing's going to suck, this thing's going to suck, this thing's going to suck.
Well, it didn't offer as many things to suck also.
Yeah, I also found for No Man's Sky, I had more incentive to want to keep going with it. I don't know, which I think is also just I don't think this game is for me. I don't really care for Kojima storytelling, and there's a lot of Kojima storytelling in this, which
just a bit.
We'll get to the storytelling.
It's not
in a
my
second.
jam.
Oh yeah,
there's a lot to say.
Like I know, but like I think of Death Stranding. I think I would have played it more if I didn't have to deal with any cutscenes. If I was literally like, I'm just gonna walk, I'm gonna throw shit on my back, similar to No Man's Sky, where it's like. The first time I played No Man's Sky before the hell of the updates, it's like I'm flying around, I'm just like exploring this planet, I'll see what I find, I see what I don't. And it was more of a meditative experience, and that's kind of what the gameplay parts I liked about this game were the meditative parts, and I hated all the stupid fucking cutscenes and the shitty, terrible dialogue.
Well, let me tell you about the part of the game that is actually enjoyable enough, which is to say...
I'm ready for it.
Because, again, the pacing of this is very lumpy. Like, the first 8 hours are not very fun. Like, the back half of Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, which is by far the longest in the game, which is like 7 or 8 hours on its own, that is the least encumbered with other stuff going on section of the game. It is mostly you are going around, you are just finding these different preppers, you are delivering stuff.
Building infrastructure.
You are building infrastructure. It's where they introduce a lot of, like, the paver systems and all the different, like, community building stuff. And, like, there's not a lot of story happening in this section for a long time.
A long time.
To the point where I started wondering, is this just the rest of the game? It's not. But in that time, that was the most engaged I felt with it. When it was just about working on these public works projects, just doing these deliveries. There's tons of deliveries in that game that are not story critical. And I was doing them because I was finding them relatively fun. I was enjoying kind of poking around the world, seeing where new people were and that kind of stuff. The navigation never became great, but it was enjoyable enough, and I was in the loop of it. And I was with the thrall of it for a while.
That sounds like that's what I would want from it.
And then it's not that anymore, really.
And then they take a lot of that away from you. So, I don't hate this game. I'm confused by I was kind of with it for a long time, and then I didn't even mind the story stuff because I thought there would be some cool payoffs, and then I really felt like the magician's pants fell down at the end. Like, it was just like...
I mean, that sounds like a great payoff.
And the rabbit was in the pants.
I mean, like, I don't hate the ending. I just feel like I was sitting there...
Were his pants falling down for hours and hours and hours?
So it's very long at the end, but it's just like...
He's not wrong, because I think in the main problem and we'll get to the actual thrust of the story here in a second, the main problem I have with this game is that the thing it says at the beginning is the thing it is still saying at 60 hours later.
Yes. The problem with the storytelling that I have is you see a lot of stuff that Sam doesn't see, right? They show you stuff, and you're putting it all together, and you've got it.
And it's not hard.
You've got it all. They fucking name the people Heartman. You don't have to figure out. You don't have to be.
He's called Die Hard Man? I don't know why.
You don't have to be a cardiologist to figure out why, right? Like, they call him Heartman.
Fragile.
They call a person
but not that fragile.
Right. So, like... But they want to spend an hour telling you like their wrestling backstory about why they're called the Heartman, right? And it's like,
they cut a promo for like 20 minutes each.
It's about why their name is their name.
It's like if Bazooka from G.I. Joe were like, you want to hear why they call me Bazooka? Oh yeah, tell me why.
No, I can figure it out.
We got it. Why do they call you Minesweeper? Well, I'm going to tell you, it's a really
do you
interesting.
Have 3 hours to listen?
It's a really interesting story.
Yeah, but like, how about this?
And it's like, and so that stuff, and like Sam. I can't tell if he cares or not, but like they're going to go on anyway. So by the end of that game,
which part of the game?
The end of that game, they cannot take their foot off the pedal with that stuff and are going so hard, man, on that stuff that it's just like, holy cow, did you not think I played 60 hours of this game? Like, we are here. Alex, stop me if I'm getting a little worked up here.
No,
like,
you're not.
To the point where it's just like, holy cow, let me go.
See, but like,
let it release me.
Why don't? Why are you surprised? You're acting surprised.
No,
by
but you know
this.
what? Here's the thing: Metal Gear is not the most subtle of video games. I
Sure.
get that.
It's
Has
about
never
politics.
been. Yeah, but like as dumb as Metal Gear can be, there is. I feel, at least in most of those games, a demonstrated trust in the audience that even when they aren't explicitly spelling every single fucking metaphor in those games out to you, that the player will understand what Kojima and team are going for.
Sure.
Dan Riker excluded because apparently he didn't understand there were politics in those
Well,
games.
no, but I understand what they're doing.
Yes, you
I understand the clone guys.
It is the fucking
No, but-
I am a Bill song for 2 hours.
Yes.
They call you a Bill. We get it. We know where they call you. Your name is Bill because you're a fucking Bill and you're going to you're going to go to Capitol Hill. We get it.
Yes.
It's that for 2.5 hours, but with real people in the game being like, this is why they call
the
me.
metaphors in this game
That's
start
the thing, though. Like,
start out like the claw end of a hammer going into your skull, and they never stop. And the thing is, it really
it's done
feels
to
like
them.
it really
This game
feels
is done
like
to two
someone
human people.
told
You want to keep playing it, Jeff?
Someone told Hideo Kojima about Dan Reichert not understanding these games have politics in them, and he is now treating his audience like they are the dumbest motherfuckers alive.
So Dan, you're the dumbest motherfucker.
Sure, yeah, whatever.
Like, seriously, anybody,
I'm the one who quit playing. I'm smart about something.
anybody who's still listening to this,
Yeah.
if you don't understand right now before you have downloaded 1 kilobyte of this game why that dude's fucking name is Sam Porter Bridges, then don't play this game.
Or Samantha America Strand.
Because, like, they will explain it to you by the end, and other characters will tell you why you are called Sam Porter Bridges to a point where you're like, what is wrong with everybody
And
here?
like you can.
That's just the style. I think you guys
No.
while you're acting.
The style is bad, though.
It's
I
not-
feel
I'm
like
not
for what
saying
I
it's
like,
good.
what turned
This
me
is-
off so much
It's
of the
the same
story.
reason everyone gets 15 titles in that game.
I
Like,
don't care. I don't know. I like the story drove me nuts. And maybe it gets better when you're past the like 8 hours of exposition or whatever in the beginning. But it was all the dialogue was like 50% exposition dump and 50% on the nose metaphors. And I'm just like, I can't.
It doesn't stop.
I can't.
No,
It doesn't
I can't
stop.
with this.
And like the beginning, like the first fucking hours of the game aren't even that bad. I mean, the game starts off very long in the cutscene stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't spend a lot of time explaining anything to you because it seems like no one in this world actually understands anything that's going on until they understand all of it and won't stop telling it to you.
And so I was again not. I'm worked up. I don't hate it.
Right.
I'm like
No,
kinda
I don't either,
I'm kind of
but-
angry or a little confused because I feel like I'm not in on it. I feel like something's happening that maybe I'm like, oh, is this a genre of thing that we're supposed to not get?
That's the
No.
question. Like, who is this for other than Hideo Kojima? Who the fuck
It
wants
feels
this?
like a vanity project
Yes.
for sure.
Oh, it is.
And he's got
That's what I'm saying.
Hey, stay tuned because there's you know what? I'm not going to get even into, but let's talk about some more of the gameplay stuff that I
Yes.
really like.
Okay.
So, when you're delivering packages, and I think this is great, when you're delivering packages, you can see the paths that other players, and you never see other players, but you can see in the game, but you can see the paths they took through the world.
Yeah, the ground deforms in a way to make a path and show you that people have gone through here repeatedly.
And you can see on your map paths that people have taken too if you
Yes.
open the map. And if more people travel that path, the ground will eventually deform. And I think it actually deforms over rocks and stuff and clears a path to make a viable way to go from point A to B in a way that I think is actually kind of awesome. Like, if everybody keeps traveling the same path, eventually it becomes a much easier way to get from this place to this place.
But did you feel like, because I kept waiting for like, okay, I'm going to get these upgrades, or I'm going to get something,
Yeah.
I'm going to get the motorcycle from the trailers, and it's going to become more of a thing where it's like, all right, we're off to the races, let's hit the road.
Episode 3.
Okay,
like
well,
Alex
I got
said.
to episode 3,
Yeah.
and I got the motorcycle, and even then, it's like there's fucking rocks everywhere, and the motorcycle
well, that's what the
doesn't go
roads
over
are
them
for.
that
That's what
well.
building the roads is for.
So episode
So that gets better?
So about halfway into episode 3,
4 parts of it, yes.
or eventually in episode 3, it's kind of up to you at that point. You can make a pretty good system for getting from A to B to C to D, and then it feels good.
Like I got the power legs.
Yeah.
The things. And I was like, okay, cool. Maybe that will
helps.
make all of this less annoying or whatever.
Yeah.
And it kind of did. I was like not falling over as much or whatever. But then it's like I realized, well, the core thing of what this game is the same. I'm still walking from identical thing to identical thing.
So you do. I don't want to give away too much because I think part of the fun of the game is actually seeing what those upgrades are eventually. But you get stuff to mitigate a lot of that, and the system of the game. Again, I think this is clever. If you're going to a place that is not on the chiral network, our kind of metaphor for the internet, you cannot see within their chiral network zone any of the other players' stuff. So if somebody has,
sometimes it exists there. Like sometimes there are things there, but you will never see it on your map, and you don't know it's there.
So it forces you to make what feels like the first expedition to this place, and that's good. It's clever.
Yes.
But once you get there, then you can see everybody else's stuff. So there is a good sense of, I found a nice sense of satisfaction of forging a path to someplace. And then when you get there, you can be like, okay, I don't have to break my back getting out of here. There's some infrastructure here now that we've got it back on the network. And usually there's a lot of very helpful stuff. Like one of the things you kind of get early on is a power generator, which can recharge your battery for your legs. And like once you've made it to a place and you're like, I'm spent, it's nice when you bring it on the network and like, oh, some guy named Alex Navarro built a power generator here.
Someone has my gamer tag. Fuck.
I'm going to use that. And that stuff I think is actually the best stuff in the game and done very, very well. Yeah. And the implementation there is done very well. And this is a minor thing I'm going to say. And when I told this to you, Alex, you were like, why are we even celebrating this? But I will celebrate it. For a game that does this, you can still pause anytime. You can also even take it offline in a way that makes it, which feels like you shouldn't be.
It doesn't fuck up the game in any way if like the servers go offline or anything like that.
It's almost like that stuff is instanced into your game and you're just uncovering it and then it kind of updates.
Like it probably won't populate new stuff, obviously, but like the stuff that's already there doesn't go away.
It doesn't feel like one of those always online games where it's like, oh, I can't connect to I can't play, or like, oh, I need to pause so I can manage my cargo, but I'm in combat or something like that. You can pause it. You can do all this stuff that makes it feel like you're just in a single player game with this other stuff going on around you. And we played. I'm very curious to see when this hits the public because we played in a press review period, right?
And there were lots of people on the servers. Like that stuff was being populated. There was like I definitely ran into a bunch of different other user built stuff as I was playing. Thank you, Captain Dong, for those bridges. They were very helpful.
I saw him too.
I think I liked his ladder.
Everyone saw Captain Dong.
Yeah, I saw one or two of your things in there, Alex.
Okay, so I never saw yours. I did see Ben's a couple of times, but I never saw any of your stuff.
So there is a mechanic in there which you can, if you see somebody's stuff, you can do what's called a bridge, or I forget what exactly.
A bridge link, I think.
A bridge link, which is supposed to make that person's stuff appear more in your world.
Right.
Yeah.
It's basically like a.
Hey, do you want to see your friend's stuff?
Yeah.
Favorites list.
And as you level up from likes, you get the ability to do more of those, and as well as you get the ability. There's no like put points into a system; it just happens automatically. That's not exactly true, but I'll get to it in a second. Of like, hey, you can carry more cargo now, or it says you can. I'm not really sure how exactly that weight limit keeps going up, but you get different ranks of porter, and it's like you will.
Each of the 5 ranks upgrades a different thing on you.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like carrying capacity. Sometimes it is balance. Stamina, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so you have like a star, and it's like if you deliver stuff very quickly, or it's kind of bleeding out.
Or it's not damage, you get a bonus for that.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the fucking system with the stars where people send you emails and based on how much they like you or whatever, there's a different star rating on the emails?
So the star rating is not about the emails. The star rating is just what your star rating for all the deliveries you've done with them. It just shows that star rating on the emails.
I'm not talking about there's your overall like porter rank and all that stuff that shows up at the end of every delivery. But when you go in the private room and you see all your list of emails, and it's like, oh, this guy, I've got a 4-star link with this guy's a 2-star rank.
Yeah, that's from deliveries.
What he's talking about. So
that's
for
just
that
from deliveries.
Specific guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as you get stars with let's say a settlement or an outpost, a guy represents an outpost, right?
Yeah.
Because it's only one.
Jeff Keighley.
Sometimes there's 2 people in there, but only one ever talks. Really.
As you get stars for doing more deliveries with that person, you will occasionally, usually per star, there's usually 5 or 4.
5.
You get something. You got power legs 2, or you can change the color of your sunglasses to green.
Yeah.
So like
stuff like that.
You get that kind of stuff. And sometimes they're very useful, and sometimes it is you can change your sunglasses to green. And you're like, oh, I don't care.
Here are some of the things I did like about this game. Because I'm kind of with Vinny. I don't hate it. I am baffled by it. I am upset by parts of it, and I think a lot of it is really obnoxious. But there are a couple of things that I do really like. One of them is the look. I think that, in grand, Kojima Productions fashion, like the art design of this game is fantastic.
It's like an amazing world.
It is.
It
It's
looks
really
neat.
And the designs are the actual designs of the gear and stuff.
Yeah, and the way that it all modularly fits to your character and the way you can kind of rearrange stuff and everything, like it all looks really cool. The monster designs are cool looking, even if the encounters I'm not particularly fond of. I like the way all that stuff looks.
Fidelity wise, it's all
and the
it's all
character
A+.
performances are really well captured.
Yeah. Oh
like
my
they do a
gosh.
lot with facial animation in this game, with a couple of specific exceptions that look like straight up animation tests that Hideo Kojima just really liked and put in the game for some reason.
Was it maybe one mama scene?
Maybe, yes.
Okay.
But there's all of it is very expressive and looks like fantastic. And I'm saying also on a regular PlayStation 4, it still looks really
that's
good.
good to know.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I'll get to this kind of side thing in a second.
So that stuff I really like. I also like a few of the performances a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I think Mads Mikkelsen is actually really good, and I think
Committed.
He's committed, and he embodies the weirdo spirit of the thing far better than just about anyone else in the game. Like he seems like he's rolling with it in a way that almost no one else is. Some of the other actors seem like they're at least having fun, and I'll give them that. Like they're interesting to listen to. Some less so. Some are just very boring.
Sure.
And chief among them is Norman Reedus, who is maybe the perfect video game protagonist actor because he's really good at grunting and not much else.
I liked Fragile. I liked her performances. I think
the character has some serious writing problems.
I think they gave her some tough lines to read.
And they gave her a backstory that I'm not going to say is quite the quiet level stupid, but it's not that far off.
That is probably one of the most Kojima.
Yes.
That and maybe Higgs are very.
Higgs is one of the main bad guys, and other than the fact that Troy Baker is very clearly chewing the scenery, that is not a good character.
So the thing I was going to say with the technical prowess was, I agree completely, and I think this is maybe my overall criticism of this game. Again, I don't hate it. I am kind of with Alex in kind of wonderment and awe, but also a little scared of it. I think in what it has done. It's far too precious about itself for its own good.
Oh, yeah.
And that comes in, and when you're talking about the facial animations, the crying. The tears.
So it's an allergic reaction, according to the story.
It's a chiral reaction.
There's a reaction to chiralium. It makes you tear up.
There is so much staring in the middle distance, two streams of tears down, and I think it might be the same animation they just map onto everyone's face.
Watch that launch trailer. It's like that 8-minute trailer, and most of it is just people crying.
It's always like staring a little bit off and just tears. There are a couple of really, I say this because it's as shorthand as like what feels like filmed school reject footage stuff of like camera in the fridge, open the fridge and use the camera in the fridge shot to get the beer shots of like, oh come on, like there are a couple of shots where somebody's just looking right at the camera when they're looking at Norman Reedus, like way too close. Like,
that's the whole private room, is that like Tamagotchi Norman Reedus just like pointing at things he wants.
That's dumb.
But that's that's like enjoyably dumb.
I will say that too. Okay, so the thing I love, one of the many things I love about Metal Gear Solid is it would get up its own ass and be pretentious about stuff, but it balanced it out really well with like just wackiness, like fun wacky. Like there would be this whole like massacre in Paris, with Ocelot and the Patriot AI gun thing, and then a fucking monkey with the diaper kind of strolls into the frame. It's like, oh right, okay, it balances out the super serious with the super wacky. And this is all extremly dour outside of the private room stuff.
There's a few wacky moments here and there, but they are very few and far between.
Like Deadman, who's played by Guillermo del Toro,
but not voice acted.
But apparently, the sync is good.
Yeah.
It fits. Is Ocelot okay? He is your kind of.
He's your tech guy, and also the comic
Otacon?
relief.
Sorry, what did I say?
Ocelot.
Oh, sorry, So he's your Otacon, right? And he's definitely like your tech guy, and also he's there to kind of be there for goofs and laughs and like pratfalls and that kind of thing. And also to ask what is war, like that kind of thing. And like you could see that mapped out very clearly, but the game being so precious, but then what I felt like, and this is kind of in summary, saying nothing by the end.
Yeah. No, it's I expect a Hideo Kojima game to be at least partially up its own ass. That is just what you come to expect from him and the way he makes games and what they are. Like he gets these things in his head or these Wikipedia searches that he has, and he finds a way to put them into the game.
Yeah, it's like Wikipedia or like the John's bathroom reader of like fun fact.
Yes, exactly.
Did you know that a tardigrade could survive on the moon?
But so here's the thing: is that like I come to accept that to a certain extent, but he has never sounded dumber being up his own ass than he does in this game, because there's nothing, he says nothing. There is a philosophy that is underpinning all of this, but it is not interesting. It is not unique.
No.
It has nothing to say. And he spends the entire game saying it.
And he doesn't even say it in a way that's interesting. He says it just outright saying it.
Yes.
Like, it'd be
Over
way
and
more
over
interesting
again.
if, like, okay, I deduced what he means from this. It's maybe not I don't agree or like I don't, whatever, but it's just like it's so on the nose.
And
with
it's
everything.
bland. It's just so bland.
Yeah.
At a certain point, though, I was hating the gameplay so much, but I thought, like, you know what, this has got to be going somewhere. It's Kojima. I want to at least see the cutscenes and see the story. So 2 hours or so before I quit, I just kind of bumped it all down to easy, because he said, like, oh, here's a mode if you just want to see the story. And it's like, yeah, that's where I'm at this point. I just want to see the story. And even then, I was just hating it, and then I kept going forward, and every cutscene I would see and every story beat I would see wasn't getting me more intrigued. I would just watch a long cutscene and be like, all right, I don't care about any of these characters, what's going on here, and I don't know if this is going to go anywhere, but I'm not going to devote dozens of hours to finding out.
There's so many layers of like backstory and things and reasons for why all this stuff is happening and all these different events and stuff, but just it never amounts to anything. It is as wide as a lake and deep as a puddle. Like, it is just, there's nothing to really grasp onto there that you aren't able to grasp in the first hour of that game.
Oh my god! Yeah, oh my gosh! Yeah,
and then they spend
super
hours,
upsetting,
even at the end, still explaining it to you.
it's like if the end of 2001 he was with a buddy talking about everything that was happening the entire time. Oh, are we traveling through a that's a Star Child, huh? I am the Star Child. Hey, babe, that's a Star Child. What if you become the Star Child? Is your name John Starchild? Is your name John Time? My name's Bill Monolith. Touch me. And it's just like
Dan's having a good one here.
and it's like the ape where, like, if I throw this bone up into the air, this could be a metaphor. Well, what if we called the bone space station, and we'll throw it up in the air and see what happens? I turned it into a space station.
Sure am tired of all these crazy monoliths.
It's just that level of like, no, we get it. We're okay. We're mostly adults here. We'll pick it up.
It's a mess.
To clarify, I know with no specifics, by the end, it is doing long-winded, like Metal Gear Solid 4 level explanations of stuff you already know. Like, you're not learning.
There's a lot of talking in the last 10 hours of that game. That's all I'll say. There's a lot of talking.
There's a lot of credits. There's a lot of
multiple credit sequences of the same credits. The same credits.
I started saying in the beginning there's that too.
Sorry, spoiler. They're the same credits.
How many times do you see Kojima's name?
a lot of
I stopped
times.
counting.
A lot of times.
I got like 30 times.
KojimaCracker.com.
It is something to behold.
And
It is. I am very curious when this gets out into the world.
Yes.
it's so frustrating to me because the whole time I was playing it, I kept seeing these moments where I'm just like, I would love this game if it was more of this. Those quiet moments of just being on your own out in the middle of the fucking wilderness, walking around with your giant fucking stack of stupid metal pizza boxes and whatever. Like, sometimes that shit hit me in the right way, especially in a couple of those moments where, like, he pulls his fucking Spotify playlist up on the game and then just starts playing a song, and it's like, you know what, this is kind of beautiful, this is kind of haunting, I like this. And then you trip over a fucking rock and everything falls over and
your baby's crying,
or there's a fucking BT wanders in and it's like, oh, there goes the fucking quiet moment of beauty, now I gotta do this bullshit
You know
again.
what? By the 18th time I've heard this low roar song,
Yeah.
I guess I will be cool with this.
Yeah.
There were probably like 2 or 3 of those moments that I was like, I get it. This is
Yes, there's something here,
there's
but
something
it just
here.
can't pull it together.
I feel like there's just too much.
It's again, I think
Too much and not enough.
I think it's too precious for its own good. It is. In the spirit of Halloween, it is somebody who has put so much work and effort into their Halloween costume that can no longer sit down. They can't enjoy the party. They are there. If they move too quickly, it's all going to fall apart. They can't eat because they'll mess their makeup up. They can't have fun in the way that you expect a Kojima game like a Metal Gear to let loose a little bit and have some fun. I think the message in this game, if I am to take anything away, and I think, Alex, you talked a bit about this.
It sounds like AI, that movie AI.
Hey, that movie's all right.
Is that the stuff I love is the community stuff. I think the message of, like, hey, help each other out, put this in, you help me build this world and we'll help each other get there. That's a great thing. All the other stuff aside, with the story and the narrative stuff, it's that is written is like just
it's just not there.
It's just not there. But I do like the message. I really enjoyed building infrastructure.
Yes.
I enjoyed
building links to other people. Like the whole thing of, yes, you are trying to connect the world. You are trying to connect people to other people.
But the actual other players. Yeah, like the actual, I enjoyed forging a path and then being like, I built the perfect bridge over this span of water. People should use this. And I could see they're using it. And you could see that it's getting likes. That part was satisfying to me.
Yes.
It was like playing a support character in a team versus game, right? Like, I really enjoyed this. I healed you. I helped our team get there.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, okay. In Kojima's world, are the likes good or bad? Because I feel like the likes are bad and the addiction to the likes are bad, but also...
It's also kind of muddled. Yes, like the idea is that...
Because isn't the whole thing like you're cuffed to the system?
Oh, I forgot to mention that there's the game's equivalent of a smartphone is literally called cufflinks, and it is handcuffs that you cuff to yourself.
Yep.
And that's how people like text you and talk to you.
That is their smartwatch.
Because it seems at odds with what it's trying to say if likes are actually good.
I don't know that this game has enough thought behind it as far as what that actually means. Like, yes, there is this sort of like...
you read the emails. It's spelled out there.
But at the same time, it encourages you to keep doing it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you get that oxytocin. You get the likes. It's good. It's proven. People need the likes. It's good. Get in there. Put the cufflinks on. It's a better world. Abby...
There's a lot.
Abby, everything is spelled out in the shortest... Oh, my gosh.
Are we starting this over?
No.
You know what's funny though is if you did start it over, it would kind of be a different conversation, just because of that's what this game is.
What do you mean? Start the game over? Start talking about the game?
Just talking about the game again. Just because it's.
Oh, we're not starting this over. We're done.
Of course not. Of course not. It just seems like. But at the same time, I will say, I kind of expected everything that I have seen and played that game already.
Look,
I've yet to be like, oh really? I've just been like, yeah, sure. I knew. I feel like I knew what I was getting. No, that has nothing to do with it. Ever since this game started getting marketed and teased, I don't know. I just kind of saw this thing as like, oh, this will be a mess, but whatever.
Yeah.
I expected more payoff.
Here's the thing that surprised me was like I did not expect this to be Metal Gear Solid, but with a new IP.
No,
and I didn't want it to just be more Metal Gear Solid as much as I love Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah, you want to see what he looks like unchanged.
Exactly. He made a bunch of Metal Gear Solids of different types. We covered that timeline. We're good with Metal Gear Solid. Let's do something new. What will he do with a blank slate with all the freedom in the world? I thought it was going to be just fascinating in all these great ways. I don't even think it's fascinating in the ways that it's boring and bad. I think that Kojima Unchained is terrible, apparently, and I thought it was going to be the thing.
In this case, it is. There's something in this. Like, obviously, there are some very heavy-handed metaphors for his experience as a designer and creator of Metal Gear that are kind of peppered throughout this thing. But the problem is that I just don't think he has enough to, or at least it isn't expressed in a way that's particularly interesting. Like, what he expresses is that he's sad. He's sad that is what happened, and that his BB was taken away, and fucking I get it, dude. You're mopey about this. You're unhappy about it. I get it, but you aren't expressing anything here that isn't just very base level. Like ennui, like upsetness about it. Like it's just it's just there.
So
yeah,
Jeff,
it really makes you think like PT really didn't appreciate maybe what we had back then.
Yeah. So Jeff, ultimately, did you play about 8 hours?
Yeah.
So we were about the same spot.
Yeah.
Do you think you're done?
Like I said, I think I do. I'll tell you what. Al and Vinny aren't really selling it for me.
I want to know, what your experience has been, and
I Stacy, my wife, was very much into the teasing and the leading up to it.
It was awesome.
And she fell asleep in the first 90 minutes of the game, and I was like, oh, well, I figured that might happen. And, I just really wanted to have some kind of closure or what you described before of like a payoff.
Yeah.
And the fact that sounds like I will not get that no matter how much I
just wanted to feel something. Like I wanted to feel something beyond just sort of like a basic level of like, yeah, this is fun enough. Like I wanted to be able to relate to whatever the hell it was that he was trying to say in that game. And it's like I kind of related in the first hour when he was kind of laying on very thick the initial idea of what this game and its metaphors would be. And the fact that it just never really gets away from that and never deviates and never figures out a way to say anything of note or interest beyond what it starts out saying just really bummed me out.
To think that I will do, roughly 7 times the gameplay that I've already done and not get any further in terms of satisfaction.
No, I don't know if that. So that is not what I felt.
Right. And I do want to experience those moments that you talked about that did get me a little excited about the variety.
They're in there.
I think the gear you get makes some of the gameplay different.
So I don't know. So my answer to you, Dan, is no. I'm not done. I'm not running back to go play this thing now in the way that I kind of was the first couple of days. I got like multiplayer friends on Call of Duty. So
I have a question. First question: can I play Call of Duty with you and your friends?
Yes.
Okay, great.
I have something to add to that, but anyway.
Okay, we'll get to the Call of Duty section here soon. What for Alex and Vinny? What are the 60 hours worth your time?
So that's where I want. That's exactly what the crux of my mixed feelings are. Do I have buyer's remorse for putting in valuable time into it?
That's a lot of time.
It's a lot of time. It's a lot of time. I'm also playing games like Judgment and stuff, which are a lot of time, and I could have spent that doing it. I think I do. I think I have some buyer's remorse. I at least have cold feet thinking about it, but...
Cold feet?
Yeah, like thinking about did I waste my time doing this to get to this? It's like when you buy something that's very expensive.
Like anxiety.
Say you spend a lot of money on a car, let's say.
Sure.
You're like, oh, do we really need this one? And I kind of feel that way about like, oh man, I took 2 weeks off. I had PTO. Did I really want to spend
have done all those drugs?
Should I have spent my time playing this?
Right.
If this was, and
because you ain't getting it back.
Because I ain't getting it back. By that same token, I did not dislike a lot of my time with that game. And I think it is an experience to behold. I think, Alex, you kind of phrased this before. It is a game I would like people to experience but could never recommend.
Damn it, you stole my line.
Yes, I'm sorry. No, because I feel that same way. It is. I couldn't recommend it to anybody.
Yeah,
but I think saying that in its own right is sort of like a sideways recommendation.
But it's the same way I kind of feel like games about games like Factorio, right? Where it's like, if this is going to push some of those buttons in your brain, if you're like, I need to build the system, I need to build, like, Alex, I feel like you get that way with, like, trucking simulator,
totally.
Right? It's like, if it's going to push those buttons, then it's going to be great for you.
Yeah.
For me, where it really fell apart was in some of the ham-fisted stuff towards the end of the game, where it just felt, you're treating me not like somebody who put 60 hours into your game. You're not treating me fairly.
I always come back to that David Lynch movie, Mulholland Drive, for some reason. I always think about that movie, and I'm like, man, that movie's real fucking stupid. But like, there's a lot of parts in there that I'm just like, oh, it's weird enough to kind of feel fun.
But this feels like, in a lot of ways, his play at doing something more Lynchian, something a little more like dreamy and surreal, and something that's like outside the bounds of like, admittedly, Metal Gear got pretty far off the rails at times, but like it was still grounded in something vaguely resembling reality, and this felt like him trying to stretch his legs and do something more like that. I at least with this one, the chops aren't there, and it's a bummer. But like, I think at this point, my feeling on it is, I don't regret that I played it. I'm glad I saw it through to its conclusion, because I felt like I really needed to see all that for myself. I needed to do it because it wasn't going to be enough for me to just hear about it or to just play some of it. Like, I wanted to see the whole experience and feel it for myself, and I did. The fact that I don't like it very much doesn't change that. But yeah, my feeling at this point is that, like, it is a game I want everyone to experience just so I can talk about it with them, but I cannot recommend it to anyone without a million qualifications dangling off the end of it like a fucking dream catcher off a backpack.
Yeah.
Nice. Good one.
Yes. Yeah.
Strands.
I'm sorry. I mean, like a Q-poo.
Well, there's also the Kipu. Yes.
Kipu.
What?
It's a thing.
Listen, we've got our own language now.
We didn't even get into Han Ka, baby.
There's so much more that Alex and I are not talking about because there's, we don't want to give away spoilers.
There's a lot. Oh, today, seeing you two come into the office, it's the first time you guys got to talk after seeing the end, and holy shit, you guys were animated.
1,000-yard stare.
So there's a lot of stuff that is also informing how I think Alex and I feel about it, that we're not getting into the specific stuff.
Yeah, because we can't.
That, let me just say, again, maybe before you buy this, watch some deeper gameplay stuff, because you'll see what the loops are on those games. And if that's a lot of it, and then if the story stuff, take it or leave it. For me, the story stuff, I felt like after all that time, I wanted something more, and it felt a little, it felt like it fell flat.
Play it someday. Maybe don't run out and buy it for $60, but play it someday and just know it for yourself.
All right.
Yeah.
I think that's enough for now.
If you're listening